Hi students, here CBSE syllabus 9th class first chapter name is matter in our surroundings. Matter in our surroundings. Everything is matter only in our surroundings around us. Okay, so here first of all we will discuss about matter. What is the definition of matter? The definition of matter is anything which occupies space and has mass is called as matter. Here students, anything which occupies space and has mass is called as matter. For example students, here we have three chalk pieces. Here we have three chalk pieces in different masses. Nothing but. For example, you take this chalk piece. This chalk piece is made up of chalk powder. Little amount of chalk powder is required to manufacture it, prepare it. Okay, to make it. If I keep this chalk piece is occupying some space and it has some mass. What is the meaning of mass? Mass means the amount of chalk powder in the chalk piece is only called as mass of the chalk piece. The amount of chalk powder. Okay. For example, if we take this chalk piece, if I keep this chalk piece on my hand, you know what is happening? Chalk piece is occupying some space. Chalk piece is having mass. Mass means the amount of chalk powder in the chalk piece. Amount of chalk powder. Okay. Next, if I take this chalk piece, if I keep this chalk piece here on my hand, this chalk piece is occupying some space. Chalk piece is having mass. Mass means the amount of chalk powder. The amount of chalk powder. The amount of chalk powder is less in this chalk piece whenever the amount of chalk powder in this chalk piece is compared with this chalk piece. The amount of chalk powder is less, very less in this chalk piece whenever the amount of chalk powder is compared with this chalk piece. Okay. So here you see the amount of chalk powder is less than the amount of chalk powder in this chalk piece, and the amount of chalk powder is less than the amount of chalk powder in this chalk piece. Okay students, the amount of chalk powder in this chalk piece is more than this chalk piece. The amount of chalk powder is more than this chalk piece. Okay. So here less amount of chalk powder is there. So that's why less amount of chalk powder is there. So that's why it is considered as it is having less mass. Here less amount of chalk powder is there. So that's why it is considered as it is having less mass than this chalk piece. It is having more amount of chalk powder, having more mass. You know, it is having somewhat more than this chalk piece, so that's why it is having more mass. Okay. Mass means the amount of matter contained in an object. Amount of matter. Okay. So here, what is the meaning of mass? The amount of the quantity of matter contained in an object. Quantity of matter. Quantity of matter. Okay. So here you see anything which occupies space and has mass is called as matter. For example, you take chair. Chair, if we keep chair on the floor, chair occupies some space. Chair has mass. You know what mass it is having? It is having some amount of plastic. Chair is having, plastic chairs are having some amount of plastic. So the amount of plastic in chair, plastic chairs are only called as masses of the chairs. For example, if we take any wooden bench, you know how much amount of wood is there, the amount of wood in the wooden bench is only called as mass of the wooden bench. For example, if we take doors, what is the mass of the doors? How the amount, the quantity of the wood in the doors is only called as mass of the door. Okay. So like that, everything is occupying space, everything has a mass, whatever it is. Okay. So our topic is matter in our surroundings. Matter in our surroundings. Everything is matter only. Everything is matter. Okay. In our surroundings, everything is matter. Why? Because everything occupies space, everything has mass. Okay, so for example, you take trees. Trees occupies space and trees has mass, nothing but amount of wood. Okay, so like that, if you take whatever the thing, whatever the object, everything occupies space has mass. Even we can see the objects, every object, the objects which cannot be seen by our naked eyes also, considered as a matter only. Why? Because for example, you take air is there around us, air occupies space around us, but air is occupying space around us, and air has mass. Okay, air occupies space, air has mass. Okay, so that's why even air is also considered as matter only. So that's why only in the universe everything is matter only. Why? Because everything occupies space, everything has mass. Everything occupies space and everything has mass. Everything occupies space and everything has mass. So that's why in our in the universe everything is considered as a matter only. That why? Because everything has mass, everything occupies space. Okay, students, for example, we take this duster. If I keep duster on my hand, duster is occupying some space and duster is having some mass. Means some amount of plastic is there, some amount of sponge is there. So that's why it is occupying some space and it is having mass. Nothing but amount of plastic and amount of sponge. Okay, so that's why anything which occupies space which has mass is called as matter. So that's why it is considered as matter only. So next. For example, students, if I take this notebook, if I keep this notebook here like this, otherwise on table like that, so it occupies some space, and it has mass. What is the mass which is having, this notes is having, this is having some amount of papers. The amount of papers, nothing but wood. The amount of papers is only called as mass of the notebook. Okay, so here the amount of papers will be different from different notebooks. Here smaller notebook, this is if we take any bigger notebook, the amount of papers is more. So that's why the mass of the notebook is more. If I take 2-3 notebooks, 5 notebooks like this, the amount of papers will be more. So that's why the mass of the 5 notebooks of this size is more. Okay, so like that, everything occupies space, everything has mass. So that's why everything is in the universe is considered as matter only. So what is the definition of matter? Anything which occupies space and has mass is called as matter. Okay, what is the meaning of mass? The amount of matter contained in an object. The amount of matter. Okay, the quantity of matter, the quantity of matter, you take chalk powder, you take papers, you take wood in the doors, so like that. Okay.